Hello, this is West Virginia Wesleyan. I'm Professor John Benjamin, and this is Graphic Design 1. Today I will be showing you some Illustrator techniques, some basic pen tool techniques in an effort to create a Spirit brand logo. All right, let's begin. All right, so I'm in Illustrator, and this is a sketch that I worked on. And I brought it in here. And the first thing I want to do is, this sketch was primarily based on a square. So I've got a basically square looking bobcat that I've created here. And so I'm going to go ahead and cut it on my grid. Now that's just Command apostrophe or view and show or hide grid. And then I want to take down the transparency on my JPEG here a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and just type in over my properties panel 35, and there I can I'm going to try to line it up with a 3x3 grid here. The way I like to lock things down is to go into my layers palette and just simply lock it down. So I'm going to show you 3 techniques for tracing your sketch. Alright, the first technique is just using the pen tool a little bit. I'm just going to sort of free draw. I'm going to start down here. I'm going to click once, and then you can see here it's giving me a little guide. I'm going to come up here to my next point area. I'm going to click, and then I'm going to drag out a handlebar like so. Alright. Now I'm going to go up to my next point, and now Illustrator's telling me, you can see by this curved line, if I click here, that parabolic curve is going to be shaped like that. So now in order to alter that, I'm going to go back here and click on this original anchor point. You can see I get a little V there. If I do so, then I can start from scratch, and now I can create just a simple straight line. All right, next I'm going to come over here, and I'm not going to do the ears just yet. I'm going to come right up here to the head, and I want to click and drag to create sort of an arch right there. And you can see the next point I want to stop at is over here. That's arching a little bit more than what my drawing has, but I'm going to go ahead and click there anyways, and then I'm going to go back and correct that afterwards. So that's a pretty good place to click. So click. And I didn't click drag, notice, so now I don't have any handlebars. So my next anchor point will not be curved. I'm going to click here, and it'll be geometric, it'll be straight. I come down here, straight, and then down here, maybe like that. No curves at all. And then here, and you can see how that's all geometric because I'm not click dragging. And then I'm going to connect it and create a shape. This line will become a shape. Now notice when I move my pen tool over that initial anchor point, it turns into a little circle. That's telling me that I'm going to close in this shape. But I want to close it in with a curve, so I am going to click drag like so. Alright. Now if I want to go back and correct these, I'm going to show you a series of tools that we can use to do that. Now if we go to our selection tool, or letter V on our keyboard, now that moves the entire shape. Now if we go to A on our keyboard, takes us to the direct selection tool, the white arrow, that allows us to maneuver individual anchor points, like so. It also allows us to manipulate handlebars. So if I click right on this anchor point, I get both handlebars, and then I can manipulate them together. Now they work in tandem, creating a smooth curve. But you can see here, I need a bit of a sharper bridge right there. If I move it down, that's actually pretty good. I'm going to leave those like that, moving them together. Now here, this is too sharp of an angle, so now I'm going to go in here and I'm going to add handlebars. They're not there because I didn't click drag, I just clicked when I was drawing with my pen tool. Alright, so the next tool that we're going to take a look at is the anchor point tool. Now it's Shift C is how you get there. You can also come up here and it's underneath your pen tool. But you can see there Shift C will get you to the anchor point tool. So the anchor point tool does a lot of wonderful things, but one of the things it does, if I click on this anchor point that has no handlebars, if I click drag, then it gives it handlebars. You can see there, and that's great. But the other wonderful thing that the anchor point tool does is it can break the handlebars, and so you can then manipulate them individually. So now I can have a rounded curve that ends in a straight curve. But I'm going to go ahead and round that out a little bit there, and I'm going to try this again. I want that to be a little more curved like that, and I want this one to be curved a little bit as well. So that's pretty powerful. That is your anchor point tool. Remember, it adds handlebars, and then it can individually manipulate handlebars. I'm going to curve a little bit right there too, and a little bit right there too. So there's different ways that you can draw with the pen tool. You can draw, click, 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 and then go back in and add the handlebars. Or what I find is more efficient is click, drag throughout, and you'll save yourself a little time. All right, so that's one approach, and it works very effectively, as you can see. You've got a lot of control. All right, let's take a look at another approach. This is called the curvature tool. So it's like the pen tool, but it gives you a little bit more help. So let's start down here again. And I'm going to go ahead and start drawing right here. And I'm just going to click. And I'm going to come up here and click. And you see what the curvature tool is doing is it's drawing the curves for me. So it's going to give me an outline that's just filled with perfect curve. And I'm going to come down like that. Kind of a blobbish shape, but what you do have is a shape that has excellent perfect curves that you can then go in and manipulate with your direct selection tool. Manipulate these, then go to the anchor point tool. Remember, Shift-C, and that way I can manipulate these individually. Okay, so that's the second way. Now the third way, now when I'm doing logo design, this is the approach that I typically take. I create shapes and use the Pathfinder tool. So I'm going to go and hit L to get my ellipse tool. And I'm going to start here. I want to create a perfect round part to that cheek fur there. Right, and then I'm going to create a second ellipse. And I'm going to move this shape like so. And then you can see I've created a really beautiful geometric shape out of these two, where I've shaped these ellipses to the cheek there. And they've got a great relationship. And then I'm going to go to my Pathfinder and simply subtract. And there you have it. So then I can do that with the other shapes as well. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to hit M. I'm going to draw out just a regular rectangle like so. Let's sort of match it up here with, and I'm going to move this anchor point here. Now this is my selection tool. I can only basically change the height and width of the box. And if I switch to my direct selection tool on that single anchor point and bring it down there. Right, and now I'm going to use Pathfinder, lasso select, to unite. All right, I'm going to create another rectangle here. And for this area, I'm actually just going to create a shape that's like this. And subtract. So 3 different approaches. Now this one I'm going to go ahead and touch up with my anchor point tool, Shift-C. This approach allows me to create more precise geometry by using ellipses and rectangles. And so it's just simply a technique that I prefer. Lastly, I'm going to go up here to the ear, use the ellipse tool, create an ellipse, and I'm going to line that beautiful curve right up there with those ears, just like so. And now with these 2 circles, or ellipses, I'm going to select them, and I'm going to use the intersect tool, as you can see down here. And then that gives me the ear, then I can select and unite. And there we have it. All right, so now let's take a look at some of the internal features now that we have the perimeter. Just click M, draw a rectangle, move it here to where I have the mouth, rotate it to the right angle, and subtract. And I'm going to do that again, drawing it out, move it to here. I want this one to be a lot thinner, and subtract. All right, and so now I've just got something to work with, essentially. So I want this to be at a different angle. I'm going to go to my direct selection tool and make this a little more narrow. But now I want to add sort of like a tooth shape down here. So how do I do that? I could use the Pathfinder tool, yes, but what would be much easier is to simply add an anchor point. So if we go to our pen tool, we hit the P key, there's our pen tool, and we hit the plus sign, and that gives us our add anchor point tool right there. I want to simply add an anchor point right here, like so, and go back to my selection tool, the white arrow, and then now I can manipulate this here. And so now I've got this little sort of like angry, frowning tooth look that I think works pretty well. All right, so now I want to see what this whole shape is looking like. I'm going to go ahead and select it, and then I can hit another key, Shift X, and that switches from stroke to fill. You can see that right here. Well, I need an eye, so I can do a couple of things. I can go ahead and Shift X, so I can just go back from fill to stroke, and then I can start drawing my eye. And I'm just going to draw simple geometry, and I'm going to make a couple of exceptions here. All right, kind of giving it an eyelash there, give it a little more personality. And I've done my research. I've looked at a lot of bobcats, and they have this line that goes from their nose to their eye. All right, but I want to show you something else. What if I decide I actually want these two to connect? So how am I going to do that? How am I going to connect this with this? The simplest way to do this is to zoom in. So I want to select just that rule, just right there, and I'm going to hit delete. And there, I've broken the shape, and now it's just a line. I'm going to do the same thing down here. Just select just that rule and hit delete. Now what I can do is, I've got these two anchor points, and I can unite them. Simply by going to the pen tool. I'm going to hit the P key, click on this anchor point, and then I'm going to wait until I hover over the other anchor point, and you can see that little square there indicating that they will now unite, like so. I'm going to come here, do the same thing, and they're united. Great. I'm going to zoom out, Command minus minus. Now it's a little misshapen. Typically in this situation, what you want to do is just simply subtract out these unneeded anchor points. So I'm going to hit the minus key, and that's going to give me my remove anchor point tool. All right, so that's a little bit of an odd shape, but I'm going to go see if I can't correct that a little bit, like so. And I'm going to bring that eyelash back by adding an anchor point right here, and then just bringing that in like so. That looks a little more expressive. All right, so let's take a look. I'm going to select it and hit Shift X. It's looking pretty good. All right, so the last thing I want to do for now is just create these stripes that a bobcat has in their cheek. So I'm going to click here, come down here, and click drag. So I want a curve, just the way I want it. Something right along those lines. Now notice, again, Illustrator is going to, if I simply click, it's going to continue that parabolic curve, keeping those handlebars straight. But that's not what I want to have happen. Well, let's see what happens when I do. There, and then if I click up here, and then I reconnect. Okay, it's a pretty nice shape, but that's not what I want. So I'm going to go back to here. When this happens, I'm going to re-click on that anchor point, and it's going to stop that part of the handlebar, because I want a nice geometric shape like that. And then I'm going to come up here, click drag. Once again, it's going to try to continue the parabolic curve. I want to stop that. I'm going to re-click that anchor point and then reconnect right there. And this is what I want. I want more of a sharp shape like that. And I actually want two of them, so I'm going to try that once again. But now I need to subtract these from the main shape, because if I select this, and I hit Shift X, they're not there. Lasso select, and then just simply hit subtract, and there I have my bobcat. And I'm going to go to my layers palette, turn off the sketch, and then I can rotate that up to more where I want it to be. And there you have it. So those are several techniques using the Pathfinder, using the pen tool, the anchor point tool, and then controlling those handlebars with the direct selection tool. Well, good luck creating your spirit brand.